Number one was obedience. 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 Notice in verse 4, Jesus told the disciples not to depart from Jerusalem until the Spirit came, till the Holy Ghost came. He told them, being a similar, he commanded them not to depart. He didn't suggest, he commanded them, don't you leave here until you get the promise. Don't leave until you get the promise. And then in verse 12, notice down in verse 12, then they returned to Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is near Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey. And so we discover that they did precisely that. They stayed there until the Holy Ghost came. So Jesus gave them an instruction. He says, don't you leave here until you get the promise. If you get a promise from God, don't you leave that place until you get the promise. Don't leave, you obey God. When you obey God, you bring yourself into a posture for God to start speaking to you and other things. Why would God waste his time continuing to speak to disobedient people? The best thing that you can do is to go back and obey the last thing that God told you to do in your life.